James Mitchell had to choose between his heart medication and his daughter's happiness. The homeless veteran chose his daughter. He spent his last $40 on a Taylor Swift ticket, gave it to her, and watched from outside the stadium as she walked in alone. Security cameras captured what happened next, and when Taylor Swift saw the footage, she stopped her entire show. James Mitchell stood in the pharmacy, staring at the prescription in his hand. The pharmacist had just told him what he already knew. His heart medication would cost exactly $40. Without it, his damaged heart, courtesy of a roadside bomb in Afghanistan 10 years ago, would give him maybe 3 weeks. With it, he'd have another month. The 52-year-old veteran's hands trembled as he pulled out his phone and opened the resale ticket website one more time. He'd been checking it obsessively for weeks. The cheapest ticket to Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, $40, single seat, nosebleed section. But inside the stadium, his 14-year-old daughter Sophie had been talking about this concert for 8 months. She'd never asked him for the ticket. She knew better. They'd been living on the streets for 2 years, sleeping in shelters when they could, under bridges when they couldn't. Sophie never complained. She went to school every day, kept her grades up, and pretended everything was fine. But James had seen her crying in the school bathroom 3 days ago, when he'd stopped by to bring her the sandwich he'd saved from the shelter. She'd been listening to other kids talk about their Eras Tour outfits, their VIP packages, their plans. James looked at the prescription, then at his phone, then at the pharmacist. "I'll come back tomorrow," he said, and walked out without the medication. Sophie was sitting on their usual bench in the park when James found her after school. She had her homework spread out on her lap, using the last bit of daylight to finish her math assignment. "Hey kiddo," James said, sitting down beside her. "I've got something for you." Sophie looked up, immediately suspicious. Her father never had something for her. They barely had enough for food. James pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. Taylor Swift, Eras Tour, 1 ticket, section 543, row Z, seat 18, tomorrow night. Sophie's face went white. "Dad, no, you didn't." "Yes, I did." "How did you? We can't afford." "Don't worry about it," James interrupted, trying to keep his voice steady. "I've been saving. Birthday, Christmas, all of it. This is your gift." Sophie stared at the screen, tears forming in her eyes. "But there's only 1 ticket." James had prepared for this question. "I got mine in a different section. They were selling singles, and I grabbed what I could. We'll meet inside, okay? I'll be in section 201. It was a lie, but it was a lie worth telling. Sophie threw her arms around her father, sobbing into his worn military jacket. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." James held his daughter and tried not to think about the medication he'd need in 3 weeks. This moment, her joy, her tears, her smile, was worth more than another month of his broken life. The next evening, James and Sophie took 2 buses to reach the stadium. Sophie was wearing her nicest outfit, jeans and a shirt they'd found at Goodwill, along with friendship bracelets she'd made from yarn. She couldn't stop smiling. James walked her to the entrance, his chest already beginning to ache. He'd skipped his medication that morning too, rationing what little he had left. "You're sure you'll be okay finding your seat?" James asked. "Dad, I'm 14, not 4. Sophie laughed. But then she hugged him again. "I love you. Thank you for this. I love you too. Have the best night of your life." James watched his daughter disappear into the crowd, her ticket clutched in her hand like a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's factory. Once she was out of sight, he walked around the stadium to the back, where the LED screens faced outward and the music would be audible. He found a spot against the concrete barrier, sat down on the cold ground, and waited for the show to start. Marcus Washington had been working stadium security for 6 years. He'd seen everything: fights, medical emergencies, people trying to sneak in. But the man sitting outside Section G, alone, in a tattered military jacket, was something different. "Sir, you can't stay here without a ticket," Marcus said, walking over. James looked up. "I know, I'm not trying to sneak in. My daughter's inside. I just want to hear the music." Something about the way the man said it made Marcus pause. "Your daughter's inside?" "Yeah." Section 543. Sophie Mitchell. Marcus pulled out his tablet and checked the system, more out of curiosity than protocol. He found Sophie's ticket, single purchase. And then he saw the payment details. Purchased by James Mitchell, card type, VA benefits, debit card transaction, amount $40. Note, last transaction on card. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Last transaction. He dug deeper, checking the card history, something he technically wasn't supposed to do, but something told him he needed to. The transaction before the ticket purchase, CVS Pharmacy, amount $40. Status declined. Marcus understood immediately. This man had tried to buy medication. The card declined because he'd already bought the ticket. He'd chosen his daughter over his own medicine. Marcus immediately radioed his supervisor. "We have a situation at Section G. Not an emergency, but you need to see this." Within 20 minutes, the story had made its way up the chain. Taylor Swift's road manager, Andrea Brooks, was reviewing the security footage in the backstage monitor room. The cameras had captured everything. James walking Sophie to the entrance, hugging her goodbye, watching her disappear inside. Then James walking around the stadium, sitting down alone, putting his head in his hands. The timestamp showed he'd been sitting there for over an hour. Andrea grabbed her phone and called Taylor's assistant. "I need Taylor to see something. Between songs. It's urgent." Taylor Swift was in the middle of Lover, dancing across the stage, when she noticed Andrea standing in the wings, frantically waving. Taylor finished the song, waved to the crowd, and quickly stepped backstage. "This better be important," Taylor said, slightly breathless. Andrea showed her the tablet with the footage, and explained everything. The veteran, the last $40, the medication, the daughter inside, the father outside. Taylor watched the footage twice. By the second viewing, tears were streaming down her face. "Where is he right now?" Taylor asked. "Still outside. Section G." Taylor wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. "Get him inside, now, and find his daughter." Andrea hesitated. "Taylor, we're in the middle of the show." "I don't care. Get him inside. This is more important than the show." Taylor walked back onto stage, and the crowd erupted. But instead of starting the next song, she walked to the center of the stage and raised her hand for silence. 72,000 people gradually quieted down. "I need to tell you something that just happened," Taylor said, her voice thick with emotion. "About 10 minutes ago, my team showed me security footage of a man sitting outside this stadium. He's a veteran who served our country in Afghanistan. He got injured, lost everything, and now he's homeless. He had $40 to his name. That's it. $40. The stadium was completely silent. He had to choose between buying his heart medication or buying his daughter a ticket to this show. And he chose his daughter. He gave her the ticket, walked her to the entrance, and he's been sitting outside this entire time, just trying to hear the music through the walls." Taylor's voice broke. "His daughter is here tonight. Her name is Sophie Mitchell. Sophie, can you stand up?" In section 543, Sophie Mitchell slowly stood up, her face pale with shock, tears already falling. "Sophie, your dad is a hero," Taylor said, "and he's about to come inside. Everyone, let's bring James Mitchell into this stadium." Security escorted James through the entrance. He was confused, disoriented, asking what was happening. Then he heard it, the roar of 72,000 people cheering. As he walked into the arena, the entire stadium rose to their feet. People were crying, screaming, applauding. The noise was deafening. James looked up and saw himself on the giant screens. Then he saw Sophie running down the stairs toward him. Father and daughter collided in the aisle, holding each other as 72,000 strangers witnessed their reunion. Sophie was sobbing. James was sobbing. Half the stadium was sobbing. Taylor watched from the stage, tears streaming down her face. "James," she said, into the microphone, "this show is for you. This next song is for every parent who gives everything for their kids." She began playing The Best Day, a song about her own father and the sacrifices parents make. James and Sophie held each other and cried through the entire song. After the show, Taylor's team brought James and Sophie backstage. Taylor was waiting in her dressing room, still in her performance outfit. Taylor said, extending her hand, "Thank you for your service, and thank you for reminding me what real sacrifice looks like." James couldn't speak. He just shook his head, overwhelmed. Taylor turned to her assistant. "Get me Rebecca Malone on the phone." Rebecca Malone was the director of Veterans Housing Alliance, one of the largest organizations helping homeless veterans. Within 15 minutes, Rebecca was on video call, and Taylor was making arrangements. "James, here's what's going to happen," Taylor said. "VHA is providing you with an apartment, 1 year rent-free, utilities included. My foundation is covering your medical expenses, all of them, including the medication you need. And my team has connections with a veteran hiring program that's going to get you an interview next week." James stared at her. "I can't, this is too much. You gave your last $40 for your daughter's happiness," Taylor said. "This is nothing compared to that." Sophie hugged her father, and then shyly hugged Taylor Swift. James Mitchell woke up in his own bed, in his own apartment, with sunlight streaming through the window. His medication bottles, all paid for, sat on the nightstand. Sophie was in the kitchen making breakfast before school. She was thriving. Good grades, new friends, and a growing interest in advocating for veteran families. James had been working for 3 months at a logistics company that specifically hired veterans. His PTSD was being treated by a therapist covered by Taylor's foundation. But the ripple effect went far beyond one family. Taylor Swift had launched Taylor's Heroes Fund, specifically dedicated to helping homeless veteran families. The fund had already assisted over 2,000 families, providing housing, medical care, and job placement. Sophie had started a blog documenting her father's journey, which had gone viral. She'd been interviewed on national television, bringing attention to the veteran homeless crisis. James Mitchell's story became one of the most shared stories of the year. News outlets around the world covered it. The video of his reunion with Sophie had been watched over 100 million times, but more importantly, it changed policy. 3 states passed new legislation, increasing funding for veteran housing programs. A national conversation began about how America treats its veterans. And every night, at every Eras Tour show, Taylor dedicated the best day to James and Sophie, and to all the parents who sacrifice everything for their children. The story of James Mitchell and his last $40 reminds us that true wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in love, in sacrifice, in the choices we make when we have nothing left to give. James had nothing, but he gave his daughter everything. And sometimes, when we witness that kind of love, the whole world stops to say, "We see you, we honor you, and we're going to make sure you never have to make that choice again." If this story moved you, please share it and consider supporting veteran housing organizations in your area. Have you or someone you know faced impossible choices like James? Share your story in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories that remind us what real heroism looks like.